Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to play Nothing Gained But Glory. This is the fifth game of the Musket and Pike series released by the GMT Games. The game I have here is the first edition of this game. It was re-released, I think, some months ago, along with This Accursed Civil War, another game of this series. But this new edition comes with really strange counters. Well, strange is the best word I can think of, because some people that I know called these new counters ugly or totally player unfriendly, because they are, well, hard to tell what they are showing about. They are somehow made to look like all these soldiers in these old maps from the 17th century, but some people found them nice, but some found them, well, looking very strange. I have a first edition with more traditional icons, and I found them definitely better and more player friendly. And in this video my goal is to show you how this system works. This game is probably the best of all of these systems so far. Why? Because it has 7 games, seven battles, which is the biggest number of battles that you can get in one game of Musket and Pike series. And also, these battles are not very big. Some of them are quite small and short, some of them are medium, but even the biggest battles of this game are not some epic when it comes to the number of counters and the time of play. So I think this game is pretty cool to introduce people to the Musket and Pike series, and my goal is to show you how this system works. So there will be a lot of talking about rules in this video. I hope I will be able to cover most of the stuff. And to make it, I'm going to start with the first battle of this game. It is the Battle of Fehrbelin, fought at 1675 with Prussians against Swedes. It was a very important battle in the history of Prussia and Germany at all, because despite being actually nothing but a draw, it was later found as the very important victory of the Prussian army, because they weren't defeated by the Swedish army, which was kinda Wunderwaffe of the 17th century. Swedes were winning all the battles they can, and then suddenly they weren't victorious. So if they weren't victorious, all the people around the world saw this as the total defeat. And because of that, some countries around decided that this is a good moment to fight with Sweden again, and that's how the Scanian War started. And this game is about the battles of the Scanian War, and we are going to start with the Fehrbelin. I might record more battles from this game. This might be a problem, because these battles, even if they are not very long, the videos can be long, because this system comes with a lot of small stuff that is easy to forget about. Okay, so let's start with basics. What this system is about counters, orders, etc, etc. So let's zoom a bit and let's talk about counters first. There are two types of counters: units and commanders. As for units, in this particular battle we have 4 types. We have heavy infantry, light infantry, cavalry and artillery. So, as for infantry, each unit has 2 factors. One of them is their strength and the other is morale. This unit also has its L here, saying that this is light infantry. When it comes to cavalry, it is the same. We have strength and morale. Also, there are 2 letters in this lower right corner. First of them is the name of the battle that this unit is used. Since there are 7 battles in this game, it is pretty important to keep your units in the proper boxes or something like this, to not mistake them, because they often share the same name, but they are used in the different battles. Next, there is another letter that tells us to which wing of the army this unit belongs. There are usually 3 wings, but not often. In this particular battle, for example, Prussians have only 2 wings. There is a center, left or right. Like I said, sometimes it is different, but usually there are 3 wings. Next we have artillery. Artillery also has its morale, but it has no strength factor. Instead, it has 2 factors for its range. First one is called grazing fire, and grazing fire means that every unit in its range, when you are drawing a line to your target, and each unit in this line is hit, and the other is a normal fire, then only the target of the fire is hit. Finally, we have commanders. There are 2 types of commanders: wing commander and army commander. Sometimes there are no army commander. For example, in this battle, Swedes have no army commander, and usually there are army commanders, but in this battle Swedes have no army commander, only Prussians have army commander. Okay, what do we have here? We have a letter saying about the battle he is used. Next we have a letter saying of his function. So he is the commander of the Prussian left flank, and he is AC, this means he is army commander. Finally, we have a modifier, which is used for the certain actions that commanders are used to. There can be 0, -1 and -2. So -2 is definitely better, he's a genius or something, or god of war, he's going to provide a lot of good stuff. But usually most of commanders have 0 or -1. So that's for the counters, and let's go on the board. Orders are the heart of this system. There are 4 types of orders that each wing might have. There is a special card to place them on the... but as for me, I prefer to keeping them on the commanders, so it is easier to see what's going on. And there are 4 types of orders. There is charge. Charge is an order you want to have when you want to attack. It allows you to move your units, but each of your units must end at last 1 hex closer to the closest enemy unit that is not already engaged. So this means you have to move at last 1 hex, and it has to be done in the way that you are getting closer to the enemy unit which hasn't any of your unit adjacent to this enemy unit. Such units under charge order also might fire, but they cannot do any other actions. So there are 2 actions that allows you to get better when you are in the bad shape: reform and rally, and you cannot do any of these actions when you are charging. Simply your soldiers are running running forward against the enemy, and they are not about to do anything else. Next, make ready. Make ready allows you to move with your full movement allowance, but you cannot move any of your units adjacent to the enemy units. So you can move. This is a very good order when you want simply to move your army. You are allowed to move. All you cannot do is to move adjacent to the enemy units. You can fire, but you are not allowed to perform advancing fire, which is pretty normal because you can do advancing fire only when you are moving onto hex which is adjacent to the enemy units, and you cannot do that when you are under make ready. But if your unit is already on the hex which is adjacent to the enemy unit at the beginning of your activation, where you have such order, you can still fire. You can reform your units. So if your unit suffered some formation hit, so they lost their original formation, you can reform them, but only these that are with a leader on. So this means that you can usually reform only 1 unit. and you cannot rally. So if your units are in a really bad shape because they get morale shaken or broken, I will talk about it soon, then you cannot rally your units. So, long story short, if you want to maneuver, if you want to move your units, but you are not about to attack now, make ready is your best choice. Also, this is order which is easiest to get, because changing order is somehow a complicated procedure. I will talk about it later. And make ready is an order that it is easier to get, and it is pretty easy to change into any other order. So this is very good order too. Next, receive charge. Receive charge allows you to move one hex only, but you cannot move adjacent to the enemy unit. It allows you to fire, save to the advancing fire, which is against pretty obvious because you cannot get into enemy units. It allows you to reform all your units and rally your units that have a leader on. So, if your wing was involved in combat or moved through some hard roof terrain, and some of your units are formation shaken or formation broken, this is the order you want. It allows you to reform your units quickly. It makes your units to move really slow because they can move only one hex. So there is not a danger that they will start running closer towards enemy. So if you want just to stop your army and say, come on guys, make yourself better, then this is an order you want. And finally, rally. Rally is one of the most dangerous orders you want, but also sometimes a very friendly order. You can move with your full movement allowance, but you cannot get any closer to the enemy units. So if your enemy units are there, you cannot move in this direction. You can still fire, save to the advancing fire, which is pretty obvious, and you can reform and rally your units normally. So, if your army is in a really bad shape, if you were involved in combat, some of your units are broken, some of your units are shaken, and you feel that you want to save your army because it is on the verge of breaking, sometimes you want to change into rally. Also, if all the units of your wing are morale shaken, morale broken, or formation broken, I mean all the cavalry and heavy infantry units, because artillery and light infantry doesn't count, then you are made to change into rally. You cannot do much save to changing into rally. So what are the dangers of the rally order? Because so far it might sound pretty good. Well, if all your wings are under rally order at the end of the turn, then you lost. So this is something you have to remember about. And another thing is that when you are under rally order, it is, well, pretty hard to change into any other order. So this is an order that you usually doesn't want to get if you are really needed. Each wing starts a game with with an order given us by setup. So in this particular battle, Prussians have two wings only. Like I said, this is a very strange and unusual situation. They have a cavalry wing which is under charge order, and they have their artillery and infantry wing which is under receive charge. And Swedes, they have all their three wings under receive charge. Okay, I mentioned about all this status like formation broken, morale broken, so let's now talk about it. In the most of scenarios, all units start in formation normal. This means on this side. Sometimes it is different, but this is very specific for the certain scenarios. But due to the certain situations, it might change. And trust me, it changes really often. So, because of enemy fire, or because of moving of the certain terrain, or because of the combat effects, a unit might change its formation. There are basically two types in formation. formation normal, which is unit in the good order and it can do anything it wants, formation shaken and formation broken. Unit with formation shaken has its movement allowance halved and suffered some really nasty modifiers when it wants to attack or fire or if it is attacked. If unit with formation normal suffers something which is called in this game formation hit, it is flipped on the formation shaken side. If unit with formation shaken side suffers another formation hit, it is marked as formation broken. And when you are in the formation broken, then you know you are in the trouble. Because unit with formation broken has movement allowance of 0. It cannot move at all. It suffers really bad modifiers for fire and close combat, and it cannot do much. It cannot move, it cannot countercharge, it can only sit on their asses or on their horses and wait till they will be reformed. Because when unit is formation shaken or formation broken, it can still return to its normal shape. This requires reform action, and when the unit is under reform action, it backs to its previous formation. So, if unit was formation broken and it gets reform action, it is back into formation shaken. And when unit in the formation shaken is reformed, it is back into the formation normal. Oh, but that's not all. There are two more statuses that you can get. This is morale. Normally each unit has its morale printed on the counter, like here. But because of the certain actions, usually because of the enemy fire, unit might have to, or even more often as the result of the close combat, unit might get its morale shaken or broken. If unit gets morale shaken, it is marked with morale shaken marker, and it is not something really bad. When you have a morale shaken, you simply have your morale lowered by 1. So if they would have morale shaken, they would have their morale 5 instead of 6. And there are no any other negative modifiers of having morale shaken. But if you will have your morale lowered by 1 more level, you get into morale broken. And this is the worst status you can get. When you are morale broken, you have no formation, and you have morale and you have a morale of 1. Yes, morale of 1. This is the really bad situation. And you have to immediately retreat 2 hexes away from the enemy that cost you to become a morale broken. And you cannot do any actions save to rally, and you cannot do any kind of reaction. Long story short, you are simply paralyzed, and you have to wait until the end of the turn for the road movement. In the road movement phase, all the units marked with morale broken are moving into the direction of their board's edge. And if they will reach it, they are eliminated. So you want to rally your units with morale broken, and you want to avoid this situation at all cost. Because if you are under morale broken, your unit is in the danger of being eliminated. And sometimes you might be forced to get morale check, usually because of the artillery fire or infantry fire. If you get a morale check and you fail, you get your morale status lowered. So if they would be hit by infantry or artillery and suffer and fail a morale check, they would be marked with morale shaken. If they would be hit again, they would be marked with morale broken. And if unit is marked with morale broken and fails another morale check, it is eliminated instantly. And finally, casualty points. Sometimes enemy fire might cause you to suffer casualty point. If you are marked with 1, 2 or 3, if this number is equal to the unit's strength, then unit is eliminated instantly. Also, the number of casualty points might cause you to reach something called casualty threshold. Each unit has its casualty threshold, and it is something that it's easy to forget and hard to remember. There is a casualty threshold table. There is a lot of tables in this game, and it says that if your original morale is 6 and your original strength is 3 or 4, then your casualty threshold is 1. So, for example, this unit has casualty threshold of 1. What it means? If it suffers 1 hit, it reaches its casualty threshold. This means if you are reaching casualty threshold, then you are instantly losing 1 morale level. You are marked with such counter that says that you reached your casualty threshold, and until the end of the game you cannot be rallied past morale shaken. So this means that you are morale shaken until the end of the game. And if you will suffer any other hits that cause you to lose your casualty points, you have to undergo a morale check instantly. Usually you have to undergo a morale check because of enemy fire, but this is another morale check. So sometimes you have to undergo 2 morale checks in the row because of reaching or moving through your casualty threshold. So you can already see that this game comes with a lot of stuff which is easier to forget about. Also, when we are already with counters, there are pistols. Infantry might fire anytime it wants. It can fire every time it wants to fire. While cavalry, this is another thing. Cavalry starts with their pistols loaded. Each cavalryman is usually armed with 2 pistols, and if they use their pistols for the first time, they are marked with 1 first pistol used. If they are using their pistols for the second time, they are marked with no pistols. And to load 1 level of their pistols, they require reform action. Okay, that's all for the start. Well, one more thing. I think I should tell about it now. This is the question of movement. I talked a lot about movement, and you can see there is no more movement factor on the counter. Yes, because each unit has its movement allowance written in the rulebook. So, each cavalry unit has 8 movement points. Each light infantry unit has 6 movement points. Each heavy infantry unit has 4 movement points, and artillery has no movement points until it is limbered. If artillery is limbered, it is marked with such a counter, and then it can move with 3 movement points. But this is something that rarely happens, because in the most of the games artillery simply starts on its positions and is about to fire on the enemy. Okay, I think this covers the basics. Basics of the basics, because you will see there is much more rules in this game. Okay, since I already talked something about formation, so maybe I should tell more about formations. There are 2 more formations that your units can get, and these are special formations, a part of this formation shaken and formation broken. Because formation shaken and broken are something that you get because of the combat results. And there are 2 other formations that you can change into willingly. These are hedgehog and open order. Open order is formation available to anyone, and it allows you to move better in the roof terrain, because moving through the certain kind of terrains often causes you to get a formation hit. For example, moving up the steep slope, through the forest, etc., etc. So if you have a board with a lot of roof terrain, maybe not here, but for example in the Battle of Lund there is a lot of roof terrain, then you want to get some of your units in the open order formation so they can move easier. But if your unit with open order is attacked by the enemy, it is in troubles, trust me. From the other hand, hedgehog is the formation which is allowed for the heavy infantry only. It is very beneficial when you want to defend against the enemy, because you simply form a massive line of spikes, pikes, sorry, that makes enemy cavalry very hard to approach you. But when you are in the hedgehog, you cannot move and you cannot fire. So something for something. You will see how it works in the game. I can talk about it more, but I think you would forget about it all. And when we will be playing, I will talk more about the certain situations that might occur during the game. So I think the best way to learn how to play is to see everything in action, and you will be able to see how it works. So let's go to the game. And there is a special scenario rule, because each scenario comes with a lot of special rules. Sometimes there are more of them, sometimes there are less of them, but usually it is very good to check for them, because sometimes they might change something from the original system rules. So in this game we have a special rule saying that before game starts, Prussian artillery might fire onto the Swedes. So let's check for this. We have 3 Prussian artillery units, and now they can fire onto the enemy. There are several types of artillery units. Falcons that are marked with 3 LB, Sakers 4-8 LB, there are no such units in this scenario, or Culverins, they are 12 or 24 LB. If such first of all, we have to check for the range from our unit to the target. So, our Falcons are here, and I'm going to target this enemy unit. So, these are 2 hexes range, and now, I am firing with Falcons, and on the 2-3 hexes range, I have no modifier for die roll. So now, I have to roll, and to see what happened. I am rolling with D10. Oh, I got 9. This is the best result you can get. So, let's check it out. We are firing with 3 LBs and 9. Oh, sorry, there can be 10. Sorry, so there can be better result. And I get 9. So this means this is formation hit. You can see that there are a couple of modifiers here, but none of them applies. So, 9 formation hit. So this unit suffers formation hit, so it is flipped on the formation shaken. And normally, during the game, when artillery fires, it is flipped on the fired side, because artillery might fire only once per turn. But this is pre-game fire, so we don't have to do it. Next, this artillery targets this unit. This is the same situation. We have 3 hexes range, so no modifier, and 8. Ooh, we are lucky. This is formation hit as well. You can see that I am firing on the 2 or 3 hexes, and there are no other enemy units, so I get no grazing fire. If there would be Swedish units on these hexes, I would be able to fire with grazing fire and hit them and them. But there are no such units, so I am firing with normal fire. And now I am firing with these Culverins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Culverins on the 5 hexes range get no modifier, so I'm firing normally. Oh, that was too much luck. It is 0. 0 for the Culverins, it is a miss. So they missed. And this is all when it comes to the pre-game fire. We can now start our game, and let's talk more about it. Each turn is divided into several phases: initiative phase, activation phase, road movement phase, and marker removal phase. In the initiative phase, we have to check who is going to have initiative in the turn. How to determine the initiative? Well, it is pretty easy. We have to count the number of the best orders. And what are the best of worst orders? So, charge is the best order, make ready is second, receive charge is next, and rally is the last. So, you have to check if each side has more of the best orders. So, first you count the number of the charge orders. If any side has a higher number of the charge orders, then this side has initiative. If there are no charge orders, of each side has the same number of charge orders, you have to check for make ready orders. If there is same situation as before, you check for receive charge, and if you have same number, you have to check for rally orders. If there is still a tie, you have to check for your best commander, wing commander modifier, and the side that has a better wing commander has an initiative. And if there is still a tie, you simply have to roll d10. But this is something that nothing happened to me. Usually I can tell it by the number of the orders. So, in this situation, Prussians have one wing under charge order and one wing under receive charge order. And Swedes have 3 wings under receive charge order. So the situation is clear. Prussians have one wing under charge order, so they have initiative. And what it means? When you have an initiative, you have to activate your wing with this order first. And this is your first activation, and this activation cannot be preempted. What is preemption? I will tell more later, but so far all you need to know is that preemption allows you to take or to interrupt enemy activation. And this is this first activation that cannot be interrupted. So, Prussians are about to activate this cavalry wing. You can see it is marked as right wing because this wing is left wing, but in fact this is all your one wing which contains only cavalry units. It is pretty important to check if your unit is cavalry wing or not, because sometimes you can see that your unit contains mostly cavalry units, but sometimes infantry units as well. And in the playbook, it is always said if your wing is, let me check, or infantry or cavalry, and it is really important because you will see later why. So I'm going to activate all these cavalry units of the Prussian army. And what can I do with them? When your wing is activated, each unit might do a certain number of actions. It might move and do a pistol fire if it's cavalry unit. It might move and make advancing fire if it's infantry. It might make normal infantry fire if it's infantry. It might make a salvo fire if it's heavy infantry. It might do artillery fire if it's artillery. It might rally or reform if order allows you to. So, we are under charge order. So, the rule says that we are under charge order, we can move with our full movement allowance, but we have to end at last 1 hex closer to the nearest enemy unit which is not engaged. We can fire, but we cannot reform nor rally. We don't have to reform nor rally since all our units are in the formation normal. Okay, so when we are activating our units, first thing we have to check is if they are in the range of command. Range of command is 3 hexes for cavalry units and 2 hexes for infantry units. So our commander is here, and so all the units that are in the 3 hexes range of him are in command. Does it mean that all the other units are not? Nope. Actually, this is pretty interesting, because if your cavalry unit is in the 3 hexes range from the other unit which is in command, then such unit is in command as well. This allows you to create some really long line of command on the board. But you always have to remember that you have to check it when your unit moves. And if unit is not in command, then such unit, if moving, must move in the way it gets in command. When it is in command, it can move away as it likes. But first of all, it has to move in the way to be back in command. Alright, so now that there was a lot of talking, I know, but I'm trying to explain it everything as detailed as possible. Okay, so I will start my movement. They are in command. Yes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You may ask about these trees. They are only for show. If there are hexes with such a dense forest like here, these are forest hexes. But these trees here are only for show. They don't mean nothing. On the other side, these are marsh hexes, and they are off limit for our units. I will wait with this army commander. You will see why. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now they are in the range of this artillery, because this artillery has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it has maximum range of 9. So this artillery would be able to fire in reaction, but it doesn't want to. Firing on such a high range is probably very risky. So I will wait till the enemy will get closer, since you have to remember that artillery might fire only once per turn. So let's carry on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now notice that all these units are out of the commander's range. So they have to move in the way they will get back into the into the command's range. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I am in the command range. 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3. I am in range. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why I'm not moving any closer? Because if I would move on this hex, I would be in the reaction range of this enemy cavalry. Because in this game, cavalry has really insane range of reaction. It is 4 hexes. In most of the games I played, cavalry has 2, sometimes 3 hexes range, but in this game they have 4 hexes range. And I don't want to let them react for now, so I will stay away of the range. And next, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now my wing commander, 1, 2, and he moves here, and army commander, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He wants to be adjacent to him, because when your army commander is adjacent to your wing commander, he can help you with many things. And this concludes our activation. All our units moved. So does it mean we are done? Not really. In this game you can activate your wing even 3 times per turn. This is called continuation. When you finished your activation, you have to check for possible continuation. You are checking your order, we are under charge order, and then you see. If you will roll 0 to 3, you get a continuation. Lucky, there are a couple of modifiers. First of all, this is Wing Commander modifier, and he has a modifier of -2. He's amazing. So we got -2. And now we got Army Commander if adjacent or stacked with Wing Commander. He is adjacent to the Wing Commander, so we got his modifier. So we got -4 now. Fantastic. And now, Wing Commander adjacent to the enemy unit, we would get negative modifier +1. We are not. We are Cavalry Wing, so we get additional -1. And there are modifiers for the certain battles, and if we get a continuation, if we try to get a second continuation, we would get a negative modifier +1. But this is our first continuation, so we have to roll, and we got -5. So let me roll. We got 7, -5, it is 2. So we get a continuation. And we can activate our wing again. Amazing, isn't it? And now, let's talk about preemption. Because, like I said, this first activation we made, enemy couldn't preempt. But every other activation and continuation can be preempted. What it means? Do you remember tramping from Great Battles of the History series? It is something like that. When your enemy gets activation or continuation, but before he makes any actions, you can tell that you want to preempt his action. You choose your wing, and you have to roll in the number that is given you by the continuation and preemption table. Of course, it depends on your original order, so Swedes are all in the receive charge, so they would need 0 to 2 to get a preemption. When you are preempting a continuation, if you are preempting an activation, then enemy is marked with bypassed. This means that he stops his activation, then your wing that get a preemption makes all this activation, including its own continuations, and then when it finishes its preemption and all its activations, then you are back to your wing and it is activated. But if enemy preempted your continuation, then you are finished. You cannot do any more actions, you cannot do your continuation, your wing is finished until the end of the turn. If enemy tried to get preemption and failed, because of course this is something might happen, then his commander that tried to preempt you is marked with no continuation. This means that he cannot get a continuation until the end of this turn. So preemption is sometimes useful, but risky. And if you are still marked with no continuation, you might still try to preempt again in the next activations, but if you fail again, you are flipped on the finished side, and your wing cannot activate in this turn. You will see how it works. In fact, this is very cool and interesting mechanics that allows you to break the usual order of activations. Okay, so I have a continuation for this wing, so I can move again. I will start with this cavalry unit, it moves here, and now it is in the range of reaction of these two cavalry units, because it is in the 4 hexes range. Now, what they can do? They might try to intercept. And to get an interception, it is not easy. You have to make a roll. In the interception table, like I said, there is a lot of tables in this game, and you have to check your order. The Swedes have receive charge order. This means that they need 0 to 3 to get an interception, there are a couple of modifiers. If your original morale is 8, you get +1. If your original morale is -1 for the die roll. If your original morale is 6, you get +1. If there is an army or wing commander stacked with your unit, you get his modifier. And if there is Battle of Halmstad, you get +1. So they have morale of 6 and they have morale of 6. So they both get negative +1 modifier for their interception roll. They are under receive charge order, so they need 0 to 3. So let's roll for them. Wow, they made it! Actually, they made it because they get 2 +1 for the morale of 6 is 3. So they are they get enough to get an interception. So now I have to move them instantly. 1, 2, 3. And since they moved 2 hexes or more, but you have to move at last 2 hexes, in the clear terrain, without changing your facing, you are allowed to get momentum. Momentum is showing that you are charging against the enemy and you get a momentum. And it is pretty important. If you are attacking with momentum and defender also have a momentum, then enemy momentum is gone. Only attacker might make use of momentum. So, and now we have to resolve this battle instantly. Normally, first you move your units, and then when all your units are moved, you resolve your combat. But interception is a very special situation when you are making your movement first, then you are resolving the combat, and when the combat is resolved, you are continue your activation. So, next I'm going to make interception roll for them. I got 6. +1 is 7, so they failed. If unit makes its interception, or if unit fails its interception roll, it is marked with interception done. It means that it cannot make any interception attempts until the end of this activation. And now, because of that, we have our first combat to resolve. This is a cavalry combat, so there is a couple of steps we have to make. First of all, we have to count our modifiers. I have a special... Oh, okay, yeah. First, we have to calculate modifiers from the combat table, close combat table. If there are commanders, we have +1 or -1. There are no commanders. Next, morale differential. This unit has a morale of 6, this unit has morale of 6, so no morale differential. Strength ratio. They have 3, they have 3. Same strength, no modifier. Close combat matrix. It is here, and you are comparing a unit which is attacking with a unit with a defender. Here we have Cuirassier versus Cuirassier, so it's 0. No modifier at all. Next. Defending cavalry expands a pistol shot. Yes. And now, this is something that I tend to mistake when I started my adventure with this game. There are 2 ways of using pistols. First, you can approach the enemy and fire with these pistols. Or fire with reaction. For example, I would be able to fire at them when they approached my front hex, but I didn't want to. And you are expending a pistol point, and you are making a roll and checking the result in cavalry fire table. But you can expend a pistol shot in the close combat. Then you don't have to roll anything, but you just get a modifier for combat. And that's what I'm going to do. Defender spent 1 pistol point, so he get +1, I mean -1 because they are defender. So we get -1 modifier. Attacker is doing the same. He spends 1 pistol point, and because of that, he gets +1. So it is 0 again. Next. For each flank rear hex, defender is attacked from. No, we are attacking from the front hex. And now, what is very important, the total number of modifiers cannot even get before below +4 or -4. So next, if none of our units are in the formation shaken or formation broken, so there are no modifiers for that, and attacker has momentum. If attacker has momentum, then he gets +1 if he's heavy infantry, or +2 if he's cavalry. They are cavalry, so they get +2. So total modifiers in this combat are +2. We are making a roll with d10 and check for result. We got 6 +2, it is 8. This is pretty good result. And we are checking for the result in the close combat table, 8, 7, 8. Defender morale broken. So this is first thing we have to do. Defender morale broken, so he's marked with morale broken. And because of that, he's instantly flipped on the other side. Defender retreat 2 hexes. So 1, 2. Attacker must advance into vacated hex. So he's moving here, and he's marked with interception done. And now there is a final part saying check for cavalry pursuit, and this is something you would like, you sometimes love and sometimes you will hate. There is a cavalry pursuit table. It has 2 columns, one for this accursed civil war game and for the other games, where you have to make a roll to see what happens to the unit that that charged on the enemy and what happened to the unit which was retreating. Let's make a roll. Very good, we got 0. 0 means that we got break off, so nothing happens, they remain on the hex. And now, after all the stuff was resolved, each unit which was involved in the combat suffers a formation hit. So they are formation shaken, and they are already morale broken, so this means they are formation broken as well, because when you are morale broken, this means you have no formation at all, so they cannot they cannot reach any closer, any lower result, so nothing happens to them more, save the fact that they are morale broken. Okay, and that's all. We can return to our Prussians. So I am moving here, and I am moving here, so I will attack these guys. They cannot intercept anymore because they are marked with interception done. I am moving with 1, 2, 3, and 4. I am marked with momentum because I moved 2 hexes in the straight line, but this, sorry, I made one mistake. When I moved into this hex, I was already marked with momentum. This cavalry might try to intercept me, so let's make a roll for them. They 7, nope, +1 because their morale is 6, so they get interception done. And now them 5 +1, it is 6 because their morale is 6, so interception done. And now I can move my unit, and they move here. They are going to attack this infantry, but since they moved on the hex which is adjacent to the heavy infantry, then this heavy infantry might make a reaction fire. So we have to make a roll. Good for cavalry, but bad for infantry, and we have to check for the result in the fire table. We are heavy infantry, we are firing onto the flank hex, on the front hex, and as for modifiers, we are making a reaction fire versus moving cavalry, so we get -1. So this is 1, and 1 with front hex, it is still 1. This means that enemy gets 1 casualty point. And now we have to check if we reached their casualty threshold. Because they have 3, 6, so their strength is 3, their morale is 6, so yes, they reached their casualty threshold. We have to mark them with casualty threshold counter, and now they have to undergo a morale check because they suffered one hit, and each unit with morale of 6 that suffers one hit must undergo a morale check. 3, they made it. Okay, so they are fine. But since they reached their morale, their casualty threshold, they will be morale shaken until the end of the game. Okay, I'll continue my movement. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, 1, 2. So I would be able to get momentum. 3, 4. And now these 2 units might fire at me in the reaction fire. This is not some. This move might be not the wisest thing I would like to do, but this is something I want to show you. I'm playing mostly to show you how the game works, instead of how I should play to win. Okay, so now they are all. These both units are allowed to fire at them. Yes, infantry unit might fire in reaction as many times as it wants. So they are firing. We get -1 because this is enemy cavalry unit. We got 8 -1, so it is 7. And 7 means 2 casualty hits. So they get 2. They have strength of 3 and morale of 7. So they reached their casualty threshold. And because they have a morale of 7 and they lost 2 casualty points in the one shot, they have to undergo a morale check. 7, but because they have a morale shaken, their morale is currently 6. So they are morale broken. And because of that, they have to retreat 2 hexes instantly. 1, 2. So you can see that charging against enemy infantry might not be a wisest idea. Okay, let's go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now I am in interception range of these 2 cavalry units, so let's roll for them. First for them. I got 6 plus 1 is 7, so interception done. And now them. I got 1. So they can intercept. 1, 2, 3. They got momentum. And we have to resolve this combat. 3 versus 3, no strength differential. 6 versus 7, so -1 because of the morale differential. They are both expending a pistol shot. So no modifiers for pistol shot. And they got momentum, so it's +2. So it was -1 and +2, so our modifier is now +1. Oh, 3 plus 1 is 4. This means that the result is attacker morale shaken. Attacker retreat 1 hex, defender cannot advance. So they retreat 1 hex. Both sides are suffering formation hit, and they are marked with interception done. I would be still allowed to move, but I'm not going to. I will move my other units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that's all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3. This artillery still awaits for enemy to get closer, so it's not firing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They are moving like that because they have to, because they have a charge order, so they have to move adjacent closer to the enemy units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now our king goes here. And now about Army Commander, because Army Commander can be really useful in the situations like this. You see that these two units are morale broken. So, if we want to get a second activation, they will retreat from the board at the end of the turn. But if we get a second continuation, we might be able to rally them with a king. I mean with Army Commander. Because normally you can't rally your units when you are under charge order. But your Army Commander might rally or reform your units anytime he wants. That's why he's so special and important. Okay, so that's all for the movement. And now, do we have any of our units that are adjacent to the enemy units? Yes, here and there. Attacks are not mandatory. You don't have to attack. But first of all, at the end, when you move all your units, you have to declare where you are going to attack. If any of your units are adjacent to the enemy units and their front hexes, and they are not going to attack these enemy units, then the inactive player, I mean enemy player, might declare his counterattacks. So, for example, if I would be here and I would say that I'm not going to attack this infantry, then now this infantry might attack me back. If there would be situation, if I would be here, and if I would attack this infantry only, and this infantry wouldn't be attacked, then this infantry would be able to attack me first. And a very important rule about this game: only one unit can be attacked in the one combat. You can attack with as many units as you like, but your target might be only one unit. For example, if my unit would be here, I wouldn't be able to attack these two units with this cavalry unit. I might only attack one enemy unit per single combat. So let's resolve this combat. This will be a complicated case. First, we have to check unit strength. They have a strength of 6, they have a strength of 3. But when infantry is attacked by cavalry, it has its strength halved. So they have a strength of 3. And they also have a strength of 3, but they suffered 1 casualty point. This means now that now they have a strength of 2. So we have to check if we get strength ratio modifier. If there would be a modifier, if there would be a ratio 1 to 2 or 2 to 1, a certain side would get a modifier. But it is 2 to 3, so this is not enough to get a modifier. So no strength modifier. Next, morale modifier. They have morale of 6, they have morale of 7, but they are morale shaken. So their morale is lowered by 1, so they have morale of 5. This means that morale differential is +2 for the attacker, for the defender. So we get -2 modifier for the defender. Okay, next. I am expanding a pistol shot, and because of that I get +1. So it is not -2 now, but -1. Next, I am not morale shaken, so I am not formation shaken nor formation broken, and they are not as well, but I got a momentum. Momentum gives me +2, so it was -1 and now it is +1. So I have to make a roll with +1 modifier, and 5 + 1 is 6. So 6. Defender morale shaken. Defender retreats 2 hexes, attacker must advance into vacated hex. So their morale is shaken. They have to retreat 2 hexes. 1, 2. Their morale is shaken, and I must advance into vacated hex. And now what's going on? First of all, each side suffers formation hit because it was involved in combat. Each unit which was involved in combat always suffers a formation hit. Next, this unit moved here, and because of that, enemy might react. This is another thing that it is easy to forget, but when your unit moves after the combat, enemy might react. So this heavy infantry might fire at them, and that's what they are going to do. 9. Amazing! They are firing on the flank hex, and they are firing on the infantry, on the cavalry that makes a move. So they get -1, so it is 8. 8 in the firing on the flank hex, it is -1. So this unit suffers another formation, another casualty point. It is -2, and now because it's reached its casualty threshold, it has to make a roll for morale check. 5. It is fine, and it has to undergo another morale check because it has a morale of 5 and it suffered a casualty point. Remember what I said, that sometimes you have to undergo 2 morale checks in a row. 3. Okay, again we are fine. That's great. So this momentum is done and this combat is resolved. Next battle goes here. We have 9 versus 3. So it is 3-1. 3-1 provides +1 modifier for the attacker. Our morale is 7 and their morale is 6. So we get another +1, so it's +2. These two units are expanding a pistol shot. So we get +1, +2. Defender expands their one only pistol shot. So we get 3. We are attacking from the flank with 1 unit, so we get +1, so it's +4. And now defender is shaken, so we would get another +1, but remember what I said, you cannot get more than +4 on -4. So we cannot get +5, we can only get +4. And now I am making my roll. I got 7. 7 + 4 is 11. 11, you cannot get more than +9. So 9. Defender eliminated. Because of that, this unit is removed from the game and placed in the dead pile. There is something called dead box here, and you have to place all your units that are eliminated in the dead box. So this unit is eliminated. Next, attacker must advance into vacated hex. So I will advance here. All these units are marked as formation shaken because they were involved in combat. And now the last part says roll for cavalry pursuit. So we have to roll for all these units that were involved in the combat, if they are cavalry units, for their possible pursuit. If they would fail, they might even leave the board. So now for them, 5. And we have to add +1 because they are under charge order. So it is 6. 6. Pursue and eliminate, mark pursuer as formation broken. This means if enemy unit wouldn't be eliminated because of the combat result, it would be eliminated now. And now mark pursuer as formation broken. Now for them, 0. 0 is break off. This means they are fine, this is nothing. It would be +1, but it is still a good result because you got break off when you get 4 or less. And now for them, 2 + 1 is 3, so they are fine. Okay, that was good. And this concludes our combat. We don't have any more attacks to resolve, so we can now remove all the interception done markers from the game. And this concludes the first continuation of this week. Now I can try to get for the second continuation, because like I said before, you can try to get even 2 continuations, and this means that you can activate your wings even 3 times per turn. So I need to make a roll now. Oh shit, I rolled 9. So let's calculate our modifiers. I got -2 because of army commander adjacent to the wing commander. I got -2 from the from my wing commander, so it's 5. And I got -1 because I am cavalry wing, so it's 4. And now I got +1 because this is my second continuation, so I got 5. And to get a continuation with my charge order, I would need 0 to 3. So I get no continuation. This means that this wing finishes its activation. When it is done, you are flipping your wing commander on the finish side. This means that this is the end of his activation for this turn. And now, what's going next? First, you have to activate all the wings on the board with the charge orders. So, if there would be any wing with charge order on the Swedish side, this wing would be activated. If there are no wings with the charge order on the Swedish side, and there are some other wings with charge order on the Prussian side, then Prussians would activate these wings. If there are no wings with charge order anymore, you have to check for the wings with make ready order. And there are no wings with make ready order either on the board, so now you are checking for the receive charge. Swedes have 3 wings under receive charge, and Prussians have 1 wing under receive charge. This means that now wings with receive charge are activating. And since our last wing which was activated was Prussian side, so now a Swedish player might choose one of his wings to activate. And which wing he's going to activate? I think he's going to activate this cavalry wing. This wing is under receive charge. So what can he do? When you are under receive charge, you can move 1 hex, you can fire, you can reform all your units, and you can rally your units that are with leader. Or if you want, you can try to change your order. I think I will make my first action with staying with receive charge, and it allows me to reform these 2 units back into their normal shape. And now, when I made it, I might try to make my movement with any other units. They cannot move because they were already reformed, but I cannot move my units adjacent to the enemy units. So I cannot move here, I can only move here, but I cannot get any closer to this unit. So that's all. I think I'm not going even to move. I will stay here. And now I will try to get a continuation for this wing, but I am under receive charge, and my commander is rather stupid. He provides me no modifier. Swedes have no army commander in this game, in this battle, so it will. We are cavalry wing. Let me check. I think we are. This is Battle of Fehrbelin, and Swedes right cavalry wing, yes. So we get -1 for the continuation attempt because we are cavalry wing. I got 4, -1 it is 3, and to get a continuation with receive charge I would need 0 to 1. So I failed. I get no continuation, so this commander is marked with finished. And now it was receive charge, so now I can activate this wing because it is a Prussian wing with receive charge. I'm not going to do much with them. I think all I can do with them is to fire with my artillery, and that's what I'm going to do. This artillery fires onto this unit. I got 1. This is complete miss. This artillery fires here. 7. This is formation hit. And this artillery fires onto them. 1. This is a miss. Oh, that was a very poor firing. And I'm not going even to do much. I think this is enough for me, so this wing is finished. And now Swedish wings with receive charge. They still have 2 wings, so now we are going to activate any of these wings, and we can do the stuff with them. I think I will activate my central wing first, and it is under receive charge. I will keep this receive charge order, and first of all I'm moving with the commander. He moves here and he rallies this unit. They are now not morale shaken. You cannot reform and rally. You have always to choose if you want to rally or reform your unit. So I decided to rally. So they are now formation normal. And now I can move one hex. Do I want to? No. I will stay where I am. And now this infantry fires at them, because when you are under receive charge you can still fire. I got 7, and 7, this is heavy infantry, and flank, this is 1. So we scored 1 hit on them. They have already 2 casualty points, and their strength is 3. This means that they are eliminated. Good. And next thing I'm going to do is to fire with this artillery. Artillery is firing here. Oh, wow, they got 9, very good roll. So it is 9, this is formation hit. So they suffer formation hit. Artillery is marked with fired. Okay, I roll for continuation for this wing. 6, no continuation. So this wing is finished. And I have one more wing to activate. I'm going to activate it. They have receive charge, and I want to change it into make ready. I failed, so I have to stay with receive charge. And due to receive charge, I am allowed to reform this unit. And that's all. I cannot do much save to this reforming. I mean, I can move 1 hex, so I will move this unit 1 hex closer. But that's all. Artillery cannot do much, so I will roll for possible continuation. 4, I failed, so I get no continuation. This means that he is finished. And this concludes our activations. We don't have any more commanders to activate, because all the wing commanders are marked as finished. And this concludes activation phase. And when the activation phase is done, we are going into the next phase, which is a road movement phase. In the road movement phase, we have to check if any of our units are marked with morale broken. If there are such units, they have to move in the shortest way into their board's edge. As for the Prussians, this is this edge, so these 2 units have to move. They are cavalry, so they have 8 movement points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So they are going to leave the board, and if it happens, they are eliminated. And this concludes road movement phase. And next we have marker removal phase. First we have to remove all salvo markers. We have to flip our artillery and Finnish leaders on the ready side. Next, we have to check for the leader replacement. If any leader was removed from the board because of the combat in this turn, we have to check for this fate. So far, none of them was removed. And next, we have to check for surrendering. If all the wings of any player are marked with rally orders, then this player loses the game instantly, but nothing like this happened now. So this is the end of the turn 1. I think this is a moment where I can call it a day for this video, and this is the first part of this battle. I talk a lot about rules, so in the next videos I will probably talk less about rules, and there will be more playing. Of course, I will probably mention some other things I forgot to talk about now. And again, and at the end, if you noticed any mistakes that I made, and I probably made some, because like I said, this is one of the most complicated GMT systems that I ever played, feel free to point them. It doesn't make me angry when someone points any mistakes below my videos. Rather, it makes me happy because I know that some people are watching them, and remember that some people are watching these videos to learn the rules. They don't know these games and they want to check how they work. So if you notice any mistakes, you are absolutely free to point them, as long as you are not making any insults or anything like that, of course. And again, for the last time, I'm sorry if I made any language mistakes. English is not my first language, it is my second language, so I know it is not perfect, but at last I hope it is understandable. So, thank you for watching and see you next time.